Ladies and gentlemen, we have Colin Kelso and Ben Magaziner. The stars have aligned, gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just started with my coffee. I watched Really Good Session, as I mentioned to both of you. But having been a observer of mushroom blading content and knowing both of you, it was really cool to see you just without a net, just kind of expressing everything that came up for you. Also, there was a comment in the thread that I thought was hilarious, that I think is worth mentioning as it relates to all the homies in the Patreon. Hold on, let me find this.
I'm excited to see where you're going with this.
Yeah, sorry. I meant to have this pulled up, but this one made me chuckle this morning. God damn it. Do you guys use Discord at all?
No.
I do not.
Yeah, it's making me feel very incapable with a computer. All right, that's it.
I think something that's underrated in podcasting is silence.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not bothered at all that it's taking you a little while.
Nice, thanks.
This is a wonderful way, because I was concerned with the three of us that it would be like people talking over each other and very chaotic, and I'm sure it's going to get to that point. So I'm relishing this kind of calm beginning of Ben looking for a reference point.
Found it also. Shout out Alex Coleman. I love how Todd's videos are like, the sun was shining, a child was happy, I love rollerblading. And Joey's are like, due to an unforeseen 1 millimeter difference in frame height, I may never skate again.
Yeah, I loved that comment.
I think that's a great State of the Union for fans of the show.
And I love the duality of a creative partnership. I love it when two people have very different perspectives.
Yeah.
And they're working together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's actual collaborate. Colin and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, where it doesn't seem it seems like both of you guys are content to play your own games within what you guys offer, which is very cool and feels like actual collaboration, that you're not trying to be the same note all the time.
Right.
And yeah, I'm enjoying seeing you step out and express some things that are, because I definitely feel compelled in both directions, where I'm 1 millimeter frame height can matter to me, and
Right.
also things that are more existential or more something that's much deeper about helping a child drop into a ramp, and
right.
That's a portal that opens, that you're not going to find that in optimizing your frame height, as far as I see.
Exactly. And I've always tried to ignore the technology. I've tried to just put them on and not focus too much on it. I mean, obviously you're conscious of the skates that are under your feet, but my best experiences on skates have been when I'm not thinking about my skates, and I'm thinking, and I'm just experiencing and open, and whereas Joey is very focused on the 1 millimeter frame height difference, and we'll be out skating and he'll constantly be talking about his setup, and he's very conscious of the pros and the cons, and that's great. And I need someone like that who can make recommendations to me and can make me aware of the differences with all the technology stuff. But like I said, I like to try to ignore it.
Yeah, that makes sense. One of the reasons I joined Patreon is because I love hearing the both of you talk about skate products. I think it's very fascinating, and it's good to be aware that these nuances exist in technology. I, for one, myself, have been pretty consistent in what I'm skating. It's very rare that I'll like try new tech. I tend to just kind of go out and accept the tool for what it is and what it can offer in that given moment. I tend to rely more on mindset in those moments, and like how bad do I want to accomplish this thing I'm going after, and the instrument is secondary to that kind of search, if that makes sense.
I have a curiosity for you, Colin. Well, two, I guess, one on the technology side and one not. And the way you describe like how like wanting something badly, I can definitely relate to, particularly in earlier years of my skating. Like that particular kind of hunger was just like abound in me. Though as I think about that now, when I want to do things, I sort of have to like sell it to myself a little bit more. You know, like the meaning to me is not like, for instance, I think there was kind of like an obvious maybe like competitive urge or something that's present when you're 19 through 24. That's like especially where we grew up, where it's like, oh, so and so did this on so and so landmark spot. Clearly I suck now and must be willing to die to be, you know, like within the game. But now it's sort of like there are way more scales of like what's meaningful, as I think we probably all see it. But I'm curious in like what you're doing if you're playing, if you're selling things to yourself a little bit. Like for instance, I think of like that top acid you did on the Drexel ledge in the recent bass stem edit. Like that to me is a good example of like that's a like canonized spot within like Philly skating, and the way that you did that was like I could see you kind of going like, oh, like Diaz did this year. Anyway, I'm curious to hear what you might say thinking about desire to do certain things now, especially as like not a 20-year-old.
Right. And see, this is why I wanted Ben to hop on, Todd, because he's one of the very few people that still exist in rollerblading that I can actually say I have a very close, intimate, shared lived experience with. He brought up Jay Diaz, who, gosh, what he like rolled down it, then like 180 to the flat and fakey threed off, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Sorry, I'm not getting the acronym JDS.
Yeah, Jason Diaz, old school Philly skater.
Okay.
Great friend.
Along with the Giappo Shooter crew. Good dude. But yeah, no, that was a spot that's been around for a long time. It's not a spot you go to and just like session at. And truth be told, the only reason I wanted to do it is because Delfino was in town and I thought it would make a good picture just because of the colors of the spot, the fact that it had some old school lineage was definitely attractive to me. And it also allowed me to throw in just like a simple classic thing to the amount of tricks that I already had. So I guess as far as like what sold me on it, it's like a plethora of things, those of which I mentioned. But yeah, I guess more or less those factors. But I like the way it turned out, and to my surprise, a lot of people had cited that as like one of the more likable things that I did in that edit, which was flattering to hear.
It was beautiful, the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
But not obviously it's a top acid.
Yeah, right.
But it's rare. It's very rare to see it. It's rare to see a curvy kink ledge at all.
Right.
You know?
But
it was
the
just a
spot
very
in itself, yes, it was a very unique one. But typically my intention when going about like what I'm trying to do in a skate video part is I look at it like I want to try to speak to the audience. And I found a way over the years of just like going at this for some time that you can leverage this concept I call the law of numerics. Basically, it's using like three things. What do I want to say? And focusing in on that. So one of the things that I wanted to do for the baseline edit was showcase mastery of the thread the needle. Did one out of a back torque, did a thread to thread Machio. So that was one. I wanted people to know that. The other one was I wanted people to see variations of Christ, not only just in airs, but also with grinds. So that was like the second thing. And then the other thing I wanted people to be aware of was grabbing manuals. And I feel like when you go about like understanding what it is you want to say, you can leverage tricks and then hone in on them in different ways to kind of make your purpose even that more amplified. And I think people tend to think in terms of numbers. And to me, what sells me is the concept of what is it I want to tell people. So that's kind of more or less it right now in a nutshell.
That's, I think, like perfect to kind of come up at something that when I start thinking about having these open-ended conversations about skating, I always think of like a sort of like State of the Union address, or like some requirement, my version, I guess, of starting at the beginning. And there's a part of these kinds of conversations that are like fractured from the beginning. What I mean by that is like talking about skating on a certain level sucks, because if you can't prove it physically, like you're describing, like you can't make the point. Like the real point is shared in the physical delivery or the physical like contribution to this narrative of it. So though I think it's possible and can be helpful to talk about it, like you're proving the point that you're like, I want to say it in what I'm doing, and that should be enough, which I share.
Yeah, it's interesting how like my purpose over the year has changed. When I first started skating, like the purpose was to learn. Then after you acquired like a foundation of tricks, the next purpose was to get sponsored. Then when you're sponsored, you want to have signature products. And then after that, maybe the next step is to own a brand or something. But at this point, I feel like I've accomplished those things, and what I'm really going after now is an attempt to evolve the canon through all this barred and shared knowledge that I've acquired over the years. And it's interesting because when you get to that point, like the climb is no longer clear.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you go about that? Like it's very easy to just say like, I want to be sponsored, I want signature products, I want to start a brand. Like I feel like there's a clear path to achieving those things, whereas once you get to a point where you're contributing to the canon, so to speak, it's like, well, where do I go from here? And I feel like I often get stuck and can find frustration in this new era I find myself in, where I'm trying to derive purpose out of it. But
Yeah, I think in the past, a lot of people have gotten to that point
mhm,
and kind of lost their motivation. And you see people like just drift away.
mhm,
Because you're right. Where do you go from there when the purpose is unclear?
mhm,
Because we are involved with something with an unclear purpose. There's no ball to put in a net. There's no game to win. It can feel overwhelming in terms of like, what am I trying to do here?
right.
Um, so that can be an uncomfortable place to be. Um, but you're definitely someone who's managed to continually evolve and continually like incorporate new movements and evolve as a skater, as a creative entity. Um, so do you have any advice in terms of like maintaining purpose and motivation?
Yeah. I think it involves a little bit of vulnerability. I think it involves a little bit of adaptivity. You need to have a growth mindset. Um, and I think finding like interests outside of skating that could potentially influence your purpose is a healthy thing. Um, I remember, Ben, you said to me some weeks ago, like rollerbladers can often feel like they're alone on an island. And you talked about integrating with life versus trying to distinguish it from the world at large. And I think there's a lot of room to build off of that statement.
Yeah, I mean that's like that cover for me that covers like a number of things. One is like this the reality of um like this cultural moment in skating, which is that like the aging population that we are, um, and the nature of games, that like some things come and go, like worlds end,
Mm,
and I'd love to see skating continue to live, but some certain things have a lifespan, um, and when I say that, like it's easy to feel like we're on an island because I think many of us can agree like there are powerful things that have come from this like identity that we get to inhabit, right?
mm,
Like from shallow things like what it meant to see like a Senate shirt in Pacific Sunwear or something when you're God fucking even calling it Pacific Sunwear demonstrates how old I am. But like uh I was talking about this with Eric Stokely the other day, and he like got a new job, and a person was from Kansas City, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like I used to see this guy with like red hair and a mustache like skating around, which was Casey Roche." And so like there's a kind of superpower in this, like we are so apparent to the world because of what freaks we are that people see like, "Oh my God, I saw like a good rollerblader," or I saw like whatever, a cool looking rollerblader or whatever the fuck.
yeah.
And so as a result, we have this like powerful, both like, and we've definitely felt it at skate parks when every skateboarder hates us or whatever. But like there's something special about how it seems to position us in the world, or I've experienced that at least.
Mhm.
But I think the reality is, as we look to a more like integrative perspective and not one that sort of makes us feel special or have this moral high ground, is that like we're in a physical culture, and there are like, especially as the canon has kind of opened up and we're really thinking about like what the fuck are skates good for, um there are way more obvious. I mean, like, I'm watching tons of figure skating these days with like just very clear, like you're just seeing like, oh, there's sweat stance transition into topsoul into spin. You know, it no longer feels like that's not Dustin Latimer. Like, I don't relate to you. I mean, dance, climbing, you know, like all manner of physical culture. These are our like our kin, and it may not be so obvious to just be like, I'm going out for a session with ballet dancer, and we're gonna just like get weird at the skate park. Like, probably not gonna work. Nonetheless, there are like we're not alone, and it's not the t-shirt that like defines us. It's like how and where does physical culture live, and how do I can, especially like when you've pushed a thing very far for many years, and the path is not clear to like you know, the people we're kind of at the end of age group to some degree. So yeah, anyway, I'm dragging on a little bit here, but like there are plenty of reasons to not to not feel alone, as far as I see it.
Right.
Open your eyes a little bit.
And it might be sorry, Colin, it might be healthy to not think of ourselves as special.
Yes.
Like maybe we're not special.
Right.
Even though we are unique. I mean, there's not many rollerbladers in the world, but maybe what we're doing we're doing the same thing as, you know, gymnasts, figure skaters, yoga practitioners, just with a different instrument.
Yep.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that topic, I feel like being able to open yourself up to different areas in life where rollerblading could potentially be integrated. Like, you have to have questions. You have to be willing to ask questions. I truly believe it's more important to ask questions than to find answers. And I've definitely been guilty of speaking and thinking in terms of absolutes, like, oh, it's this way, you have to grab your tricks, spin out, all these like silly little things that were absolute, and you know, I was very protective of it. It actually hindered me from opening my mind to other areas in life. And you know, as I've aged and had experience, you know, I feel like asking those questions are important to even getting there in the first place. And I still feel like there might be rollerbladers out there that are still thinking with like that absolute mindset where it's like it has to be done this way, or it doesn't count, or I you know, based on what?
Right.
In some ways, it's like, I think there's a circle back moment too, where you see that like I share, like have occupied many like positions of absolutism as a means of, I don't know necessarily what it is. I think it's basically a defense mechanism at heart. And I think about this developmentally too. Like, I look back on certain parts of my life where I've had, you know, like a strategy or some kind of like, you know, place where I'm stuck. And it's very easy to look back like, why the fuck would you behave that way? You know, why did you miss all of these special things that were going on as a result of your defensive orientation? But I think the place where that integrates, or the place where you integrate some of these like absolutes about skating, let's say, are like at the time, it was actually the most brilliant tool you could come up with. You know, it was literally the thing that made something work. And eventually that tool no longer like holds its meaning, but you see, like, if you look back at certain people that have left skating, or like they got stuck at a kind of way of being, like trick grabbing, whatever. Like one of these conversations that's just like, it's done. You know, it's like, it's just gone. But there are many people that like, that's their t-shirt, right? They're like, I'm a trick grabber. If you're not grabbing tricks, like, fuck you. And there's a way that I can like now just not get caught in that stupid loop, and you just go, that was a brilliant necessary tool when it was initiated, and like, I forgive you.
Yeah, you can use rules to create immense beauty.
Mhm.
Like, and you can look at old videos where there were strong rules, and the movements are just incredibly beautiful, incredibly developed. I think the key is to be able to relinquish those rules
Yep.
after a certain amount of time and say, okay, I've used that rule and I've created some dope shit. Let's let go of that and
Yep.
create a new path. So it's funny because there's value in both. There's value in being an absolutist, and then
Yep.
there's value in saying, okay, we're just gonna let that rule die. We're not gonna follow that rule anymore.
Yeah.
I saw this great quote that said, being an artist is giving zero fucks and giving many fucks at the same time. And that seems relevant. It's this constant kind of focusing of your lens into the micro, and then releasing it and seeing things in a macro again, and then focusing on the micro and then releasing it to the macro again. And that's a skill that, like, I don't think some people just don't have it. They need to know the answer. They
Yeah.
need to know, what is the fact. I don't want to hear any gray area. I cannot listen to this conversation of these fractured like minds just saying it is this, but it is also this, and it is also this. I need a clear answer. And I'm sorry, folks, this is the wrong podcast for you.
Yeah, we'd love to mention our sponsor, by the way, the color gray. Oh, I'm embarrassed to cite a poem right now by one of Colin and my old friends, Mike Packus, Philadelphia rollerblader. He said this one time to me: "Form is emptiness, and emptiness form. When you distinguish a rose, you distinguish a thorn." Which for me is the same. You know, every time you distinguish one of these tools, like, you distinguish the barb within it.
Right.
And it's just an unavoidable loop.
Right.
Colin and I spoke about this a little bit yesterday as it relates to tools.
Mm-hmm.
Many of these things, like, I think almost all of these discussions dovetail with, like, whether it's technology or a perspective, like, you're orienting around something potentially being useful. And many of these tools, like the grab conversation, right? I think that starts out as like a sledgehammer, and you're like, here's a blunt instrument to produce a very necessary, like, obvious, demonstrable work. But like, as time goes on, ideally you whittle that tool down into a scalpel, like a precise instrument that can both do great harm and also like produce like peerless healing. But as a tool goes from blunt instrument to precision instrument, if you are to use the scalpel like a hammer, you're a fool. And if you try to use the hammer like a scalpel, you're similarly a fool. So like, everything becomes like, accuracy is demanded across time, or you've lost the plot, so to speak.
Well put.
Thanks.
Lately I've been thinking about the fact that there might be an infinite number of Earths.
Nice.
in the universe, or maybe not happening now, but throughout time, civilizations have formed before, just like this one has. And maybe some of them invented like a form of putting wheels on your feet that might look a little bit different. Like in some dimensions, they might have never discovered urethane, or in some dimensions, maybe rollerblading was invented before skateboarding, or before like a superior big brother kind of form of it. And rollerblading is kind of the premier action sport. And maybe rollerblading has been created in like an infinite number of different manifestations. And like, what does it look like in each of those manifestations? What could it possibly look like if the variables are tweaked just ever so granularly? How does it affect the whole manifestation? Maybe in one manifestation, the rollerblading is totally mainstream. Like it's very accepted by the culture, and it's this very popular activity. And what causes it to become that? What are the variables that are different in that manifestation?
Now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea that space is infinite is insane. I don't think our human brains are even made to comprehend what infinite truly even means.
Right.
But I'm just thinking about the multiverse and Spider-Man right now, and just imagining all these different forms. Gosh, well, if infinite is real, then it could be happening an infinite amount of times over and over again in many different forms and ways and little tweaks here and there. I don't know. That's crazy, but the universe we exist in and partake in rollerblading as we know it is what it is.
To me, it also gives me like, I think people are commonly like, I think it's very easy for people to go like make statements like ego is the enemy, or like, dismantle your ego, which I think are actually quite foolish statements, to just identify this thing absolutely as like, that's a bad thing, and it just means like you're just trying to be more you. But for me, especially, it relates to the conversation of the infinite. Like the ego is there to produce distinction, because like on an infinite timeline, I'm you, you're me, we're both Colin, we've done that a million times. We're also like, I'm Jeremy Townsend, I'm still Jeremy Townsend, I'm Jeremy Townsend again. And
am I Aaron Feinberg?
You are. And you're Ruben and you're Aaron.
Ruben and Aaron
at the same time. And so it behooves one to be able to go like, right now I'm not you, right now I'm me. And if there is if I can justify being itself, it's in that like, I do need to live this terrestrial experience, like, because you could definitely look at the infinite and go like, well, nothing matters, like I'm just gonna roll up in the corner here and die or whatever. But like, the other side of that is like, okay, if I do need to endure this meat shell for the time that I'm here, and that perhaps that's a justifiable thing, I do need to brush my teeth, I do need to like go to the bathroom, I do need to make my bed, that to me all came out of like psychedelic experience, where I think many people get drawn to the like unintegrated, unnested, like, whoa, look how far out this is. Where at a certain point, if you take that exploration down, to the message to me is like, do this. You've got this opportunity. So
that's what it is an opportunity.
Yeah, truly.
This temporary manifestation of Ben Magazine or Colin Keslo. You have an opportunity to contribute to the way things will continue to evolve. You can contribute to other temporary manifestations, their experience of life and of rollerblading. That's exactly what it is. It's a huge opportunity. It's also completely meaningless, depending on how you perceive it.
Yeah,
I think,
absolutely.
sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I think the topic of infinity is fascinating. I think skating led me to have fascination in the concept of infinity, just simply because skating itself is a limitless activity that has an infinite amount of paths for exploration. So I find this conversation interesting, and it's really cool to hear you guys talk about it too. Um, so just thank you for sharing what you shared. Yeah, like opportunity. That's a really interesting way to look at it. I feel like you almost have to look at it as an opportunity, because the latter doesn't sound too good.
Right.
Well, you see it in the screaming, like, teenage version of any of us probably, who like just can't get the trick, where you're like, I deserve the trick. I have the trick. Like, where? It's like, dude, like, I actually had my first session in a while this summer where I reverted to 19-year-old Ben, where I was like, it was funny too because I was working on like a fucking like postmodern like swivelly trick that was not a like full cab on a down rail. I'm like doing a swivelly bop on a fucking thing, but I still reverted to it was funny. I drove to Tacoma to skate with Danny Stu, Dylan, Brian Long, and I took an Adderall in the morning, which I've been toying with trying to treat my like ADHD for the past couple of months. And last time I took Adderall, I was 17 through 19, and my God, I just turned into like, yeah, what the fuck? It took me like I think it actually took me like weeks to get over it, of like just transforming into person who cannot see the opportunity of the moment and just feels like I deserve this bullshit.
It's complex being a human being.
It is.
And having expectations.
Yeah.
That really never align with reality.
Right.
Never. So you're just constantly fucking yourself with these expectations of how you think things should be going, what moves you should be doing. And it's kind of a balance of like forcing things and accepting things. So forcing a skill set and accepting where your skill set is at. Really, like, I think all three of us have been skating for long enough that we can figure out things on any object that are natural and somewhat easy for us to perform. And there's always like an easier way to do things. Like, easy is kind of a four-letter word, but it's almost good to think about, how can I make this movement easier for myself and more natural? Like, if things are not working out, you can adjust things in a certain way to make it easier for yourself, to align like reality with your expectation. I want to ask you, Colin, like, because you're really good, but like, do you ever have bad sessions? Because it doesn't look like you do. Like, looking at your videos, it looks like you put the things on and skating is so natural for you, and you can just like do extremely complex, stylish things with ease.
Yeah.
But do you ever have like a bad session where you're just like, where you feel like just unnatural on your skates?
All the time. All the time.
I
I
want to
think,
see edits of you just sucking. I want.
oh gosh. Yeah, I think people set expectations on themselves, and whether or not you accomplish whatever it is you expected could result in you having a bad session, and that could just be perception. Um, I think hope is alive in every human being. Like, we wake up in the morning with hope that we're going to accomplish something, even if it's, just eating food and like maintaining shelter. Like, we all hope to live another day. Um, you know, I I I think, through that hope, you set like expectations, and we're all still young enough and lively enough to keep producing memories and experiences. And yeah, we want them to be enjoyable. We want them to meet the expectation that we set for ourselves. So do I have bad sessions? All the time. I'm a human being, and I'm sure that's not too different from anybody else, regardless of the skill sets you have or where you're at in your journey. Um, I think you got to accept that those days are going to happen, and also be happy that you get to experience a range of emotions. Maybe there's
Right.
something to be said about frustration and uh, failure, or whatever it means to have a bad day. Because this might sound cheesy, but like, if you don't have them, how would you even have a basis for what good is?
Right.
If everything was always good, then what is good?
Right. Definitely. Yeah, there can be value in those frustrating moments, in the failure. You learn a lot. You learn a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you don't get, yeah, you don't get the good without the bad. This experience, like, you don't get godlike moments where you just lace shit without days where you just feel absolutely depressed.
Do you ever wonder like why good and bad exists? Like, why we even have the ability to distinguish that? I honestly think it involves the fact that there is sunlight and there is darkness,
Right.
Let's go.
heroes and villains, good and bad.
But also, yeah,
It's
judging things. Yeah,
yeah,
judging things is a part of being human. We're naturally built to judge, which direction is going to be best for my survival, which person is going to be best to have a relationship. We're judging creatures. And we do a lot of unnecessary judging just because we're built to judge. We're built to, like, look at this conversation and say, is this going well? Is this going bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? Everything is good or bad. But it is a fucking stupid way to look at the world, because in the bad, the things that you perceive as bad, there can be so much value. And if you just accept, instead of judging it for good or bad, if you accept it for what it is, where it's at, you can always extract value. And there's always an opportunity there, but we
that's
just fuck ourselves.
that's growth mindset 101 right there.
There you go.
There are two things that I've basically been stuck on this particular point for a couple of years, or two landmarks that I haven't been able to go beyond. One is Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who wrote the Gulag Archipelago, who led a unbearably tragic life, who like survived Soviet Gulag only to like come home and get cancer and die. Anyway, and the book is well, anyway, his quote is this: the line between good and evil runs down the center of every human heart. And that's to say that, like, it's all well in it's to say many things, but one is that, like, it's all well and good when it's easy to distinguish between between the two, but when it's that granular, you know, when it's like literally divisive enough to split the heart, oh my God. And why it's not so easy to you know, that like well, I'll spare going down that rabbit hole too far. But the other one for me is Alan Watts, who said the conversation between right and wrong is the sickness of the mind.
Right.
Yeah. And the judgment's very useful. It's another one of those tools too. It's like when this was necessary, like, you know, to be able to distinguish between mushroom that kills you and mushroom that feeds your family, or, you know,
right.
Tree bark.
There's a utility to it.
Yeah, it's pretty primal.
Yeah. But then applied to like when applied to art,
right,
or, you know, music, or things where survival is not.
Yes, different.
It's not on it for survival. Then it just kind of fucks your perception of things.
I do think, or I do wonder often, as a person who's probably been like obnoxiously obsessed with barreling down these different questions, and sometimes I wonder, and I think I got that. I was maybe in like talking to my dad a couple of months ago, and something he suggested to me that like the lack of satisfaction that some of these inquiries yield points to like the absence of a sort of like paternal component to my life. Say like another more useful imperative, which is perhaps like raising a child. And I think this dovetails with skating too, in that maybe some of what we're experiencing is that like and pardon that this is an OG Blader obnoxious thing, but like where's the new generation? You know, like where's the like where can we pass on all this like fucking bullshit wisdom that we you know, at times find incredibly useful, and other times are like, why didn't I become a dentist? You know, like the hours that I devoted to this, I could be a surgeon. But it makes me curious, Todd, as a father and as a person who I know like skates with his kids. Like, I get like a few weeks ago, I was riding my bike by a soccer game. Children, they must have been like 6 or 7 years old or something, or maybe younger. Like to me, it was the smallest version of intramural soccer. And I think for the first time in my life, I felt like my ovaries were just like, holy shit. Like, it's time, Ben. It's like, make 1,000 babies. And I was like, whoa, buddy, where has that been hiding all of these years?
Wow.
Yeah. And seeing like Julio's been posting his son different athletic activities. Like he I think got like the go ahead run in a baseball game the other day, and I was just like, I think I should do that.
Right.
Jimmy Shuda, Colin and I have been talking about, like, Shuda is like in the streets with his kids, like his crew is his kids, and they're doing like legit street skating and documenting.
Amazing.
Jimmy's the videographer now.
Yeah, Jimmy's a videographer for Team Shuda.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I wonder if like some of the pains that I think, or like I feel an ache that's kind of present in all of us that perhaps doesn't go away, and perhaps is something quite good. But I do have a curiosity if some of it is that like there's a need to share, or like, you know, extend this to either our kin or like our community kin.
Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, as a father, I'm kind of like what does it mean to your skating? I don't even really know what the question is. I guess I'm just kind of like, I admire people who felt like got to it earlier, and they were just like, yep, time to reproduce, and they're not reaching some of these biological clock moments where you're like, oh shit, I should have done this 10 years ago.
Yeah, well, in my case, I was, I'm just extremely lucky that that decision was made for me.
Oh, nice.
It was never a conscious, like, I want to become a dad. It was just, you're becoming a dad. So,
Right. You're obviously a very fertile man. It was a matter of time. It was going to happen.
Yeah. Life just said, here you go. Here's this. And it was definitely one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I feel extremely fortunate that happened. Yeah. For me, it might sound dramatic to say that it saved my life.
Let's go.
But I do think it did. There's a strong possibility that I might have just killed myself by now if I didn't have people relying on me. I just having, being responsible for life forms just brings life down to a very basic, very simple. We talked about gray areas, and this is something that's black and white. It's like I need to be here, which is awesome, having that simplicity. So that balances me in a really good way. Having these pursuits where there's so much gray area, and like it can be uncomfortable to exist in that gray area all the time, and just to come home and have, like, you got to feed these kids, you got to be there for these kids. It's just black and white. It's so refreshing.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah.
Your kids look so happy too. Like when you share on your Instagram, like they look like they're having a blast with their dad.
There's those moments for sure. There's every moment under in the spectrum of possibility and emotion. You experience all of it, and usually remarkably close together in time. Like there'll be a moment where I'm extremely irritated, followed 5 minutes later, my heart is bursting with love and joy. Like it's just like extreme emotions, all of them all at once, extreme fear, extreme anxiety, extreme guilt, and then extreme love and appreciation and extreme just enjoyment, all of it. It's crazy, wrapped into one package. So it really helps in terms of just accepting life. I think my ability to accept the moment has, I'm much better at that after becoming a dad, because you have to accept the moments. And you have to relinquish your expectations, and just accept that, okay, in this moment, my son is screaming and having a tantrum, and, it's extremely irritating, but just breathe, because in 2 minutes, he's going to be laughing and you're going to be having fun. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Todd. I mean, that's that last point you say speaks to something that's like forgiveness, or like renewal is something that, like, I feel like something I've experienced as an adult, like many moments where things just reach a sort of like a brittle edge, and it's like, that's it, no more that, like, one disagreement with a person, or one sort of, and it's just like, in this world where there's so many options, and there's so much kind of like shallow, like kind of hedonistic potential around us, where you're like, the way that you have to forgive when you're in something that requires that like black and white clarity, like child is screaming, that's priority. Like,
Right.
there's something very and also like the nature of and I remember very clearly being a child and going from tantrum to laughter, within
Right.
seconds, which is
Within a moment. Yeah.
well, right. It's like it's beyond. And in fact, sometimes I remember that happening more than not, that you would go from tears to laughter, like this renewal thing, like that. Um,
And I think there's probably no greater joy than being a child who's having a crazy tantrum about probably something really stupid, and being in the throes of rage and anger, and then in a split moment getting a hug from a parent, and then realizing I'm being stupid right now, and then a smile takes over your face, and going from rage and anger into joy, like that feeling is probably the one of the best feelings you'll ever have as a human being.
Hugs are powerful.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Yeah, I appreciate you indulging me on this. I have been experiencing like I can't. There's some words that to me I say them, and having lived in Portland, like probably like the softest city in the Western Hemisphere, where it's like it's very easy for people to throw around words like gratitude and self-care and like heart opening, let's say, which is like something that I feel compelled to express about what's been happening to me in the last couple of weeks, couple of months. It insults my like East Coast heart, my like coal smoke East Coast heart. But nonetheless, in some of these cases, I don't think that there's a better expression. Like, yeah, like something that feels present to me is I split with a long-term partner a couple of years ago, like 13 years, and the only strategy that I seemed to be able to produce after it was like secure the keep, like just protect, figure out how to like just be okay. And once I developed that strategy, it was another one of these tools conversations where I became obsessed with my new tool, and anything that was
Right.
like not part of the rules, didn't any inconvenience, anything that was like outside of the new order, it didn't work. And
Right.
I've come to see that it can be very divisive and can push away people that love you and that maybe you love too. And yeah, as a result, I'm feeling the pain of that, scalpel hammer transition.
Right. It sounds like that tool had a utility for you
Yes.
when you first split. It helped you get through it. But over time, it almost became toxic to yourself.
True.
Like not allowing yourself to be vulnerable or experience variation of emotion.
Yep.
Where something was valuable to you in one moment became toxic in another moment. And that's going back to that conversation. You need to be willing to adjust your tools, adjust your rules.
Right. And even abandon too, like, and
Right.
something that I'm hearing you describe in your parental experience, where you're like you're as gracefully as you can manage going through multiple like tool use, like soothe child, discipline child, like all of the, and you have to go like, yep, see you later, throwing out that tool real quick, maybe I'll pick it up later, maybe I won't, holy fuck.
Right.
But you also said in really good session, like something I really appreciated about watching that video, you expressed, and one of these other words that I struggle with, gratitude, like you expressed a genuine gratitude for being able to skate in a way that like just was a great reminder where you're like, I'm not in war. I have
Right.
joints. Like from there, this is where skating comes. Not like, you know, a lot of the other models that I think we've probably all produced that can be useful. Let's do topsoul like Dustin, do this mimicry or whatever. This like soy eyes are sick because X, Y, and Z. You know, this is a more interesting foundation as I see it.
Definitely. Yeah, if you can approach every session from a foundation of gratitude where just the most simple things like, I'm so happy I own skates. And I'm so happy that I'm not in a war and that my body works decent. Like those very, very basic things. If you start from a place of gratitude, even like if you're working out, I like to like when it gets hard, think about the fact that you're not sick. And think about like when a workout just becomes brutal and hellish, just focus on like, I'm not sick. If I was sick, I would love to be in the place where I'm at now, you know, sweating and breathing heavy and you know, I'm not sick. Bringing back your simple gratitude is so important. And then when you're unable to perform the soyal the way that you have in your head, then it's minor. It's not going to frustrate you so much because at least I own skates.
That's a really good tagline. At least I own skates.
Yeah.
That was a good that was a good little run there. I'm
You have baby fever, Ben? You think you'll be having some kids anytime soon?
I think it could happen. I could see it happening. I've been sort of like trying to prioritize a career change and been studying software engineering and machine learning and artificial intelligence,
Nice.
which has made me feel so stupid, just unbelievably stupid. It's so much like jumping into. It would be a bit like random software guy jumping into our conversation, and he's like, "Hello, gentlemen. Like, I'm here to talk about top acids," and we're like, "The infinite, the infinite." It's I'm you and you're me, and he's like, "Well, I was just hoping for advice on topside grinds," and we're like, "I want to have a baby." I guess I'm gonna go. I'm feeling a lot like that in this particular course, and it's a lot of these people that you meet or you watch. I watch a fair bit of content in that world to try to get to try to do lots of learning, and you know, a lot of people have their software origin story or whatever, and they're like, I was a child with an Apple IIe computer, and all I wanted to do was learn to hack or something. I'm like, I don't have that at all. You know, like no part of me was ever like, just like had an innate desire to do that. So I'm with each day like brutally humbling myself because I'm like, you know, I know that there are paths into that world that can happen at some accelerated rate, but you are engaging with a lot of these people that like their skating was software or their skating was writing code.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. So I do think that some of my potential for that to be a reality hinges on both a good partnership that, you know, like I met some people after my last relationship where they were like, yeah, like, I'm ready for a baby. Like, let's get this going. Like, you've got a pulse and like, you know, you have most of your limbs. Like, let's just kind of do this. And I just started being like, so I'm whoa. You'll remember the last time I met someone before that, like MySpace was where like people met people, you know. So it was a big adjustment for me to meet you know, people in their 30s, you know, etc. But yeah, I think I wouldn't prioritize having a child over like a great partnership that yields one where perhaps you could raise kids together. That's where I think it should start.
You definitely want to select a good partner.
Yeah,
a good mating partner is key.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, good job, Todd, by the way.
Colin, do you think do you want to become a dad?
I do. I'm getting to a point in my life where I see people my age with children, and it seems rewarding to be able to teach a younger person things that and maybe even like learn from them, see what they're interested in and how you could play a role in their life. I think part of like the desire too also stems a little bit from wishing I had someone to mentor in skating. There just aren't any young people really, especially at my disposal in Philadelphia, where I could share something I know. I don't know if that sounds like egotistical or arrogant, like, oh, I have all these great things to share, and I want a young person that I can, have some influence on. I don't know.
No, I do think that's something a lot of us 40-year-old dudes feel, where we wish we had younger people that we could, coach, and that's a natural instinct, is to share your knowledge, and just seeing a new person develop their skills would just be so interesting to witness.
I've heard this saying that if you have kids, that's humankind's way of cheating death. That's a way to stay immortal. I don't know if that's invested in this concept of ego or whatever it is. Maybe it's just like the most basic human instinct to procreate, and maybe that's the purpose of life. That's what we're meant to do, just procreate. But I definitely,
to a degree, yeah.
I definitely see the value in it, and I think it could be something that happens in the near future. So we'll see.
As awesome as it is, I don't think everyone needs to, in order to have a fulfilling life, or there's pain that you're going to experience either way, whether you don't do it or whether you do it. You're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're giving up a lot of freedom, a lot of time, a lot of energy. So I definitely don't.
But you'll have people when you're an old man, considering you get to that point. You'll have like people to spend time
a pro with. Exactly. Yeah. Thinking about life when I'm like 60 or 70, it definitely sounds a lot better if I have 30-year-old people coming over to hang out. Like, that sounds really dope, for sure.
Just like whooping your grandchildren at Mario Kart.
Fuck yeah.
Grandpa, we don't want to play this old Mario Kart. Like, pick up that controller.
One more game.
One more game.
Whoop your ass.
When I was young, this was the rage of the town. You don't know what good is.
They're all both playing like multi-verse Mario Kart on their contact lenses while they play your like chintzy old N64 Mario Kart on the CRT TV in your nursing home.
But having young people that make fun of you, is very important.
Oh my god!
Who don't think you're cool at all. You're just like dad or grandpa, and they'll just they'll put a mirror to your face. That shit is key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I wish that there was a young, rowdy teenage crew across the world skating, making fun of people. Like, I don't want to be told I'm cool anymore. Someone, I don't know. We're the kid. We're the rowdy kids.
It's true. I am jealous of, sports like skateboarding, biking that have a healthy population of youth. I wish we had that for sure.
Yeah, there do seem to be some more natural cycles of, like teams where there's kind of a, and also I think there can be like, I think there are good questions to ask about like post 30 skating, post 30 action sports, because I do think there are obvious contributions that like elder statesmen can continue to contribute, where it's like,
Definitely.
like either it's refining of the classics, new stuff, just what endurance means in these things, like as you say, there's not an obvious ball to put in a goal, and what we're talking about, right, is like the nature of finite and infinite games, and finite games are like, who's playing, somebody's going to win, there's a time limit, and then these infinite games where it's like one of the goals might be to keep playing,
Right.
and there are beautiful things about that, but I don't think that like and I've been prioritizing both in my own personal practice of skating and to some degree in trying to offer like the skateability stuff that I talk about, where it's like there might be some longevity potential in this. But like, I don't think the question is answered. Like, what's more beautiful? Someone that burns bright and brief. Like you see the contributions of people that are no longer really, like Shane Scour, or like, and Dustin didn't skate for a brief period of time, but like Dustin's not like, he's not at Blade Cup, or this other idea of like skating living somewhere else in the everyday, skating when you're fifth, like being able to appreciate skating in your 50s, 60s, beyond. I don't know what the answer is there, but yeah, being able to see in other cultures, like Andrew Reynolds still like out with like the Baker team and like getting clips, it would be cool to see. I mean, that's present in skating, like John's posting more clips than like many other people all the time.
Yeah.
That's but yeah, like probably not the dominant example, and we could definitely, it would be nice to see more examples of it.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it'd be more healthy, more diverse to have, all sorts of all different ages taking part, and the burning brightly for a short period of time, those types, and also the longevity types, both contributing to the conversation.
Yeah,
I think it's just there's something to be said about just more perspectives. We need more.
Yep.
Yeah. Like in another dimension, there's a very healthy 20 to 30 population of skating, and also a very healthy 40 to 50 year old population, and they kind of work together, and that's an extremely healthy community. You get all those different perspectives, and you get the 20 to 30s talking shit on the 40 to 50s.
Yep.
But then also learning some things from the 40 to 50s and vice versa.
That's the integrated timeline, right? Where it's like, it's not like, I love Colin's, there's a sort of question that I think Colin, or a request that Colin has, is like, make me retire. Like,
yeah.
get so good and oppose my model like so strongly that I can put this down, because like right now nobody's fucking with me. It's just the truth. Like show me an alternative perspective that like holds a candle to this. It's not here.
Right.
But there's another perspective that you're like another timeline, the ideal timeline, where like there's commingling and there's, you know, like the culture that Colin and I grew up in, like the way that you show affection for someone, in my experience, or the way that I experience affection, is someone talks shit on you. You know, someone says like that, you know, if someone was like, Ben, that thing you did was beautiful and the best, I'm like, I don't believe you. You're a liar. If someone was like, that shit sucked, but like I like your pants or something like that, I'm like, oh, cool. That's a believable compliment.
Right.
Um,
There would
yeah.
also be a lot of relief for the 40-year-olds if there were, 20-year-olds doing their shit a lot better. Like I'm sure Colin would experience a lot of relief if there was like a 20-year-old version that could do all the shit Colin does, but with a youthful energy and youthful clothing and fashion and just make it way better. Colin could just be like, oh, okay, I can just skate for fun.
Right.
Like I can just chill and I can be a Gons and I can just like cruise around the streets. And I'm Colin Kelso, whatever. Go watch this young buck.
Yeah, I I think like when youthful people like push back, it's a signal that they're extremely passionate and that they care. And I think as they age, they'll remember that type of uh, I would call it like a hunger almost.
Mhm.
But
Right.
like as somebody that is a contributor, like I want to see it picked up. I want to see it carried on.
Yeah.
Um, thing things of that nature. Um, I'd love to see, and
It's got to be
yeah,
frustrating because you've put so much energy into this thing. Do you ever think like, man, this was a fucking waste of time because like there aren't even kids doing this, you know? Whereas like if you could sit back and kind of see this culture that you really helped build, there would be a satisfaction there.
there would absolutely be satisfaction there. That's one of the things that keeps me up at night. It's like, what is this all for? What am I doing? Granted, I don't have everything in my life solely invested in skating. I also have a career. I live with my girlfriend. I'm close with my immediate family. So, like, I have other things going on, but this is the one thing that I've dedicated a majority of my life to. It's the only real living connection that I have to my childhood. And I want it to have meant something. Perhaps it's just me in my own head not being able to perceive it properly. But at the end of the day, it really would mean a lot to see it carried on through a younger crowd. I would get no bigger joy than seeing somebody experience the same amazing things that I got to experience. And I could feel a sense of living vicariously through them.
Right.
Even people like Jon Bolino, he's not a young man anymore, but growing up in Philadelphia, I had a very intimate connection with his growth and development, and like watching him skate in modern times, it brings me a lot of pride. Not to say that like I directly influenced him, but the city and culture that I was part of and was a contributor in, like he cut his teeth in Philadelphia. That is a fact. So I feel like he is probably the closest living example of a younger person. Granted, he's not young anymore. He's in his 30s, but um, he's just an amazing person. And I wish that I had more Jon Bolinos in my life.
Fucking yeah.
I want to share a story about Bolino. So I own a Peloton, and when I'm on the Peloton, I like to listen to metal music specifically. I tend to, yeah, I put the resistance up and I just go. And in my YouTube metal mix, Bolino's song from the SSM profile he made came on. It's a Slayer song. And that part, I always loved that video part of his because it was like his first pro skate. And it was the edit that was promoting his first pro skate. And that's a pretty big achievement. It might be one of the biggest achievements of notoriety that a skater could actually say that they ever possessed. But I'm on my Peloton, I'm pushing through, and that song comes on, and I just started bawling, crying. Because if you remember, like the first 180 that he does, he curls down like this sidewinding path. And like metaphorically, I'm thinking like life doesn't have a straight path. You often have to find interesting ways to go about succeeding at what it is you want to do. So here he's winding down this curled path and just hurls through like a tree, over a spiked fence, over the sidewalk, into the street, hooks the landing. And I just remember like the type of youthful power and hunger that goes into chucking something like that. And it wasn't even a stale 180. It was just a testament to being young and just ready to go after it. And I resonate with that type of determination. And that was one of those like those moments where, again, I just felt like this immense sense of pride that I got to like experience his growth and development. And it made me happy, but it also made me sad because, like I had said, like I wish I had more Jon Bolinos in my life that I could point at and say like maybe I had some influence on that person.
Yeah, that had to be amazing for you to watch his progression and watch him grow. And then, yeah. And that's definitely, there's not enough Bolinos. More Bolinos.
I don't want the journey to end for me. I don't want the journey to end for him. And I would love to see others embark on a journey that leads them down a path where they can find reward and gain those experiences. Because it's not just like fulfilling in a sense where like, oh, I'm rewarded by all these things that I have done, like the people you meet, the types of cultures you get exposed to, whether it be music culture, fashion culture, meeting strangers in the streets that you would have never found yourself in otherwise. I mean, skating has been the best teacher, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to experience life. Especially nowadays when there's so much temptation for young people to stay inside and just sit on devices. Like, I think it's so critical to have an instrument that's going to encourage you to get out of your house and just go into the world. And like you said, interact with strange people, be exposed to different cultures, different homeless people and mentally ill people, and just to go find beauty in an alleyway. I'm very grateful that I had that experience.
Me too.
When I was young, I didn't want to spend any time in the house. I wanted to go outside. All the excitement is outside on the grungy streets. Like, that's where the excitement is. And a lot of people don't have, a reason to go hang out in the street. They see that as like being a loser or wasting their time. But There's so much beauty out there. There's just so many stories. There's so many experiences to be had. It's like, yeah, I think that's one of the best things about skating, is it just encourages you to get outside with your friends. Yeah, man.
There's something that I think is like personal.
Sorry, I really have to pee.
Oh, go for it.
Oh, that feels good.
Way to go, guys.
Go team.
Um,
Urination team.
I'd love to
Hey,
continue on
what's up
that.
with the urination squad? We urinate.
Is my mic still working okay?
Yep.
Cool. I have a few things to say on that I think are worth exploring for a minute if you guys are down.
Yeah.
How's
I'm down.
I'm also
Good.
I'm good. We've been going for about an hour and a half.
Nice.
So maybe we'll do another half hour.
Sounds great. There are some things that are very personal in what Colin just described as a person who like grew up for much of it alongside Colin and observed him as both like a friend, peer, and also like an amazing skater to develop, you know, like to watch like many landmarks achieved in the same, you know, like domain that you're in. And you'll have to pardon me for like, again, like OG bladering for a minute here, but there's something, I say this only because I think it's speaking, I think it's important to be speaking now. And what Colin is partially describing is that he arrived at skating at a very interesting time where like there was a really clear and fascinating dominance hierarchy that existed then of burgeoning technology, of a variety of different kinds of teams, of skaters that directed a really clear path. That's like, this is what competency really looks like. Like, if you want this, like, move in this direction. And some of those absolutism was present in a way that I think was actually like reasonably healthy. And pardon me for speaking too directly, but like Colin ascended that dominance hierarchy, like, and recognized like a lot of the culture that like went on, you know, like, and is also, as many people know, like one of the encyclopedias of our sport in terms of like seeing stuff that happened, like repurposing it, endeavoring to like credit the former masters. And it's like I share some of those traits too, and have like, in the encyclopedia sense, it's a confusing thing to then see some of what came before, like seeing people get stuck at like a grab conversation or one of these things that just like references the old. So there's a certain loss where you're like, you know, like you humbly say like, there's like a lot that I have to share. It would be nice to share it with someone. Like, yeah, you have a ton to share. And it's I also hesitate to even have this kind of conversation because I resist the notion of like the woe is me. Like, if only there were like some like new guys to talk. Like, I don't think that's what's happening here. It sort of is what it is. But at the same time, I as we're talking about moving forward, and we're in a time in skating where a lot of these like even the paths that exist themselves to me are not so clear or helpful. What I mean by that is like a lot of the new skating that's postmodern skating that's happened in the last 8 years, 5 years, 3 years, like it's gotten much better at producing messages of access to like, these are what these things are good for. Here's ways that you can do stuff that doesn't have to do with grinding. You know, there's lots of like good expansive messaging. But I also don't think it produces necessarily some of that, like the emotional response that Colin had to Bolino's trick, which is like, there are levels to this shit, you know, that come with hunger and determination and are not necessarily about like, we can all, like, all of these ships this rising tide can raise all of these boats. there's also this like, you know, knowing some of what we saw coming up, to see some of these things like just rise, like Bolino, there are plenty of those other guys that like, and I'm not doing any more name dropping and OG bladering, but like there's tons of examples from that world. So as we're talking to, like, I think it behooves the current and the new, you know, it's probably time for a little bit more absolutism. If I need to kind of like put my foot down as a crotchety old piece of shit, like we're probably ready for some more blunt instruments that yield some, like, I could see more distinct, like, you know, martial arts kind of making their case, like Sean and Ryan Parker, who are like skating a lot together right now, and they're going like, we're going to push the flat bar like further than it's ever gone, and that's clearly not the only thing that those guys can do, but they really can do that. So I'd love to see more people like making their case for like, this is what, because, you know, we're not doing, I think an old model was like, we'll do everything skateboards do. Like watching skateboarding now too, with like, because they're going through their mid 2000s like down ledge shit, like they're doing it all. They're doing 3 Machio, they're doing like full alley-oop fish, 5 alley-oop Machio, you know, like they're experiencing that. And in many ways, like those things work a lot better for grinding than a lot of our current setups, at the expression that they have them now. So long story long, like more cases of like, this is what these are for.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sorry. No. I love what you said. No, I do.
I know. I just,
yeah.
I get a little self-conscious.
It's funny. It's swung so hard in one direction. I feel like a lot of people can probably resonate with what you're saying, where they're craving that absolutism a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think we do need that. We need both. I don't think there's, you know, I think skating is really healthy right now for some reasons, but it is also missing that kind of like, there's levels to this shit.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that comes from that competitive 20-year-oldness, you know? I think a part of why things are the way they are is because we're all 40.
I do think it's worth mentioning at this juncture too, in support of kind of like, I made my kind of case potentially for some more absolutism now, like on the sort of access front. Those of us who have been fortunate enough to see Brain God, the new Andrew Numerics video.
Incredible.
Both of you have seen this?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's.
I have to say I have not seen it.
Yeah.
I really like what he's doing with like the live premieres.
Yeah.
And not putting it online. But I'm also extremely angry that I've not seen it yet, and I've not had the opportunity to see it. So Andrew, if you could like send me the file, if you're listening to this, if you could just toddmcInerney@hotmail.com, just send me the file. I won't put it online, but I really want to see it.
All the trolls throw your Abibas in the chat right now.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Biba.
But
tell me about the video.
It's fucking amazing, and it's much of it is not about the trick. You know, it's like there are tons of incredible tricks in it, but he has an innate ability, or if not innate, a very unique ability to like make it about the facial expression, make it about the vibe of a person coming into a trick, where to me that indicates a path too, that's like the trick is one piece of it. And I love people that can make a strong case for like like a classic argument from much of our time is like pants, right? Like, the superfluous or the importance of pants. It all matters. That's the reality, or it all can matter. And I think Andrew presents a really amazing case for something that like was not present in the case that I just presented. It's something else, and it hits on all fronts too. Like the sound, for me, I could have just like closed my eyes and listened to the sound design, because it's staggering. So yeah, I beyond just giving us like a heartfelt recommendation and support for the film. What I'm generally trying to say too is like, I by no means consider myself like the arbiter of truth on this, and I think people should like, more than listen to my case for absolutism, like make your case. That's really what we want to see. Yeah, and you've already kind of voiced it, like more voices, more cases. Yeah, probably more people making forms of content would be wise, and I say that to myself too. It would probably be good for all of us to endeavor just to say a thing about technology, like whatever it is. I don't think one needs to like flesh out a whole channel, of something like as brilliant as like what Tom Moyes is doing. Like if you have something strong to say about this, whatever, just fucking say it. We could all use it. Like we could collectively gain from it.
Agreed.
Make your case. Be purposeful with your intent. Like, know what you want to say. Yeah, Todd, that video is incredible. And that's not even a strong enough word to describe it. Like I was moved emotionally by that masterpiece work of art, which it is. You're going to love it.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I do also love, like, I'm sure the experience that you had was amplified because it was in a theater, surrounded by your peers. That's a level of experience that's rare nowadays in our, Instagram and even YouTube, kind of just like firing something up with like without an intention of like, I'm going to give myself to this. Like being in a theater, when you go to the theater, you're preparing yourself to have an experience, so I love that. I love what he's doing with the live premieres. We need more of that.
I will say this. I've only watched it once. Yes, it was in a theater, but I truly do believe if I were to watch it again, say on my computer, I still would feel the same way, because that's how strong of a work of art this film is. Really, that was special. That was one of the most special things I've seen in quite some time, and I watch a lot of skating.
Did you talk to him about like what his plan is for releasing this? Like, is he ever gonna put it up on YouTube? What's going on?
I imagine YouTube will not work because of the audio, with no real knowledge of copyright. But I'm it's got music. It's got good music that it might have to be a Vimeo thing or something like that. I don't have an answer that he would produce. I mean, I would be very surprised if it doesn't find its way out. But I think one of Drew's skills is he has a sensitivity for overexposure, and definitely prioritizes the like make people hungry for something, right? Like he's really good at that. So yeah, beyond that, I don't necessarily know, but I mean, I'm sure he wants it out there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's one of the more interesting rollouts of a video.
Yeah.
Because you just have random people kind of talking about it.
Yep.
Because people have seen it, but not in masses. And he's kind of starving out the masses.
Yeah, it's
very interesting, showing a lot of patience. Like I'm sure Colin understands, like when you make something that you're really stoked on, there's an urge just to like put it up and like I want to share this with the world. I want to scream from the mountaintops with this shit, you know. So for him to be able to relax and like go on with his life with this masterpiece in the can and not sharing it is kind of speaks to his character. I've never met Andrew, but I'm a huge fan of his skating, and I'm a huge fan of his videos, like all the Abibas videos that he puts up. Like his New Year's releases are absolutely incredible.
So good.
Yeah. I wonder if he'll release the new video for New Year's.
Nice. There you go. We got Biba theory going on.
I'm waiting for Biba.
That's
Colin,
too.
are you close with Andrew?
I don't talk to him consistently, but when I do see him, it's always a pleasure. He's somebody that I admire. I'm a huge fan of pretty much everything he does, how he presents himself, how he thinks differently and creatively. I mean, he truly is one of the most talented rollerbladers I've ever come across.
Wow. And
Yeah.
you've come across a lot.
I would mirror that sentiment.
Something that must be like, it must be great to be Colin Kelso, because like when people are in your presence, they probably skate extra hard because, oh shit, I'm skating with Colin Kelso right now. So you probably witness people skating at their best all the time.
I can only speak from my own experiences, but I remember whenever I would get in front of Jimmy or Jeff, I wanted to demonstrate my best. So perhaps, and if that has been the case, then I'm grateful to have experienced it.
I can't not share this anecdote because I agree with what you're saying, and it must be true. Though we need also recognize like Colin probably going to New York and like untold sums of dudes from the Bronx just like being willing to like hurl themselves out of the park in Colin's presence. I'm just thinking like just like a litany of bodies that have like hit the floor because they're like, yo, Colin's here, like I'm gonna like forward porn star out of the park.
Meanwhile, like I'm in the corner on the ankle high box doing set slides.
Oh fuck. That was fun.
What have you been filming for something, Colin?
Yeah, Sean and I are typically always working on something. I believe we'll have something out before the holiday. I sent you a couple little sneak peek clips.
You did.
That's just a few of the things that I have in the collection so far. But right after this, I'm going to go meet up with Sean and our friend Ryan Parker, and we're going to go skate around University City, Philadelphia, which is Drexel and Penn.
Nice. That sounds really fun. I'm not familiar with this location.
It was in all the older, I guess, Denial Day videos, like Underestimated Opinions would have had a lot of the spots in those areas featured.
Sean Topsole, 360 Topsole.
Yes.
To the right on the kink.
Power stomp meter while getting kicked out by Walrus.
Wow.
Walrus, by the way, was a security guard that had a walrus-like gray mustache.
That's one of the best reactions to a trick. that I've ever seen.
Complete fugue.
Even more, like, the trick obviously is incredible, but Sean's like celebration afterwards is really what makes it memorable. One of the best celebrate. You can tell he was just like in a world of glory, just overcome with just, what the fuck did I just do? I am the shit. Look at me. Look at what I have just done.
Just take me
Just
in.
filled with just like, they're a human being as arrogant does not exist as Jon Kelso after doing Soul 360 Soul on that rail. It does not exist. That is the height of human confidence, arrogance, glory. Like, Conor McGregor did not experience more glory when he got 2 belts in the UFC.
Dang.
Those 2 things are equal.
Baby, we done it.
Experience is equal.
I look at it as like one of those like Hail Mary moments in the Super Bowl. There's seconds left on the clock. He literally was getting kicked out by security as he was skating up. It was his last try. It was either do or die, and he pulled it off. I think that's what added to the level of excitement, because he knew how bad he wanted it, and that was it. It was either
that was his
come back another day
last
or
shot.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
cool.
I don't think that was known. Like, if you just watch the clip, you wouldn't know that he was about to get kicked out by Walrus. So that adds some good context to it. I remember my roommate Mason used to watch Opinions. Like, every morning I would wake up and he would be watching your section in Opinions. He was obsessed with that section, and he even started wearing like a bandana. I'm pretty sure because of your section. Yeah, that Colin Kelso in Opinions is a fucking incredible section.
Yeah, thank you. That's one of like my little time capsules from an era. I appreciate you saying that, because that one is totally near and dear to my heart. So I look back on that one fondly. Good memories, good times, and gosh, the scars that were put on that city during that time period, they'll never go away.
That video is so like, I watched that maybe a year ago now, and I remember my primary takeaway was like, this video is so deeply irresponsible. Like, it is so fucked up. All of the tricks are so fucked up, and also like the Chris Shaw and the John Schmidt. Like, there's something to me about like hey, let's take these, like, they were not children obviously, but they're gentlemen of smaller stature, and something
young
about
men.
They were young men, let's say, and they're just like just hurl them at these like impossible everything. There's something about it now, I think, as an elder statesman, let's say, that I'm like, protect, save these guys. Oh my God, it's so dangerous.
I want more of that though. I want those like 20-year-old just giving zero fucks about their personal health, just throwing themselves, having horrific falls, but recovering really fast because they're 20.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I selfishly would love to see it too myself.
Fucking putting bandanas on their heads, hurling themselves. It's appropriate attire. I mean, if you're going out on the street and you're throwing yourself the way you did, you got to put a bandana on. I mean, I'm not going to hate, because look at what he's doing.
Yep.
Good thing he has the bandana.
That's a really good one. Well, thank goodness he's got that bandana on. Otherwise, he'd be just out there with nothing.
Adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need some protection.
What about you, Todd? What do you got? What are you working on skate wise, either internally or externally, in the upcoming year, let's say?
I've completed filming for 2023. I'm
Sick.
on the relaxation tip.
Love it.
Very busy year of exploring various wheel sizes from 56 millimeter to 110 millimeter and everything in between. So I'm enjoying some rest and relaxation that I've hard earned. And we have our filming schedule itemized for 2024.
Love that.
I don't want to give it away, but I'm very excited about the direction. I feel very fortunate that I have someone like Joey that is like on board with going in weird directions, and going in weird directions that I'm also excited about. So yeah, over the winter, I'm gonna kind of think about things that I can bring to the table to amplify those weird directions that we've chosen to take. It's good to pre-plan. There's value in that because you can kind of let things sit in your subconscious and generate ideas. That's something that Joey's really good at. He'll be like playing 4D chess. He'll be thinking about like 5 months from now, what are we filming? Why are we doing it? You know, so it gives you a chance to like for the ideas to marinate. It's exciting.
I can't wait to see what you come up with next. Your guys' content is always something that I seek out the moment it arrives. So I don't know what you have in store, but I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no, I borrow so much inspiration from you guys. I said it on the jump cast, and I meant every word. Like the contributions that you've given all of us are just incredible. Like seriously, keep going. You look healthy. Joey looks healthy. I want to see you guys go for another decade plus. Yeah, look at that. You're getting those curls in. I see you.
That's exciting to hear because that was always the goal, was to give the ideas to the more talented people and see what they do with it. And this is exactly the case, is like if you can draw inspiration from our, I won't say poorly performed, but less extreme talented versions, and then you can take those ideas and refine them. That's what it's all about.
And I feel like that's where the specialness exists, though, like in the thought process, the mind. I mean,
Yeah.
talent is subjective, but a true innovator has the mind equipped with the ability to be creative. So again, kudos to you two, because you really are the best thinkers, if not, yeah, like the best thinkers. Seriously, I mean that.
Todd, are you skating schmediums?
No, Joey has them on the way.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some schmediums. I hate purchasing skates at this time of year because they're just going to be like, it's going to snow in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Skating season is pretty much done. We've been lucky. We've had some extra, a nice November. But yeah, I just hate having a nice fresh pair of skates. It just makes winter more painful. So I'm gonna wait until spring to. I definitely want to try the schmediums because it's crazy to think that we were skating medium 909s, and those are basically like size 11 skates.
Yeah.
And I'm like a size 9.
Yes.
So I'm excited to skate skates that fit for sure.
Schmedium is awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
I wear size US 10 sneaker and can fit into that shell perfectly with the Intuition Premium 9.5. Yeah. You guys been talking about that this whole time, like forecasting that it would have great response and performance, and your theory was right. I'll attest to that.
That's very exciting. Yeah. Skates that fit are important. Comfortable yet responsive skates. Very, very important. I think we skated the 909s a lot in MB8, and I think that video would have been a lot better had the boots fit a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's key. Are you on the Schmedium, Ben?
I am on the Schmedium. Yeah, I think I'm probably like a 10.5. I'm like a 27.9, 279 window. So I'm right at the edge of the Schmedium. I run a 10.5 premium in there, which fits. But yeah.
Is it tight?
It's tight, but it's definitely not painful. I'm fine. Which it's very cool. I think it's kind of like from a wide perspective on like rollerblading as a discipline, the challenge of like, say, between picking up a skateboard, obviously you could pick up a skateboard and dial it in, get a different board size, you can figure plenty of things out, but the challenge of getting like a skate that fits, like, it's a tall order.
Right.
It's a lot to ask, you putting them on and off, but I have to, like,
especially when you don't have a skate shop in your city and where you can go actually try things on.
Oh my Lord. Yeah. It's it's a lot to ask.
Yeah.
It's mistake prone.
Yeah. It's hard to fit a pair of shoes, or like, there are many things that are just like, also skates are definitely, I was thinking when you were talking about the multiple timeline, multiple universe skate thing, where I was like viewing our world, our universe from another, and like, we're like clamoring at the edges of UFS, right? We're still like downtrodden by this like previous, like technological ruler, and we're just like, give us soul frame, give us low riding height.
I definitely think UFS is a unique manifestation to this dimension.
Oh, right. This is the UFS timeline.
This UFS dimension. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does not exist in other dimensions.
That's funny. But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying, like, God, a skate that fits and what can happen, what feels interesting to do. Yeah. Short, like playing with wheelbase, for instance, is also something. My computer's about to die. Let me get my charger.
Uh-oh. Yeah, wheelbase. You skate a longer frame, right, Colin? You like the longer frames?
With mediums, but switching to Schmedium, I'm now on the small frame.
Okay.
Yeah. And
interesting.
Yeah, it makes more sense, I feel, because I was toying around with the Sola frames on a medium, and that's a little bit shorter of a frame than the large them frame. And I just noticed that I had like the ability to turn a bit quicker, and heel rolls, toe rolls seem to work a little bit better, like with more ease because of the shorter frame. So part of the reason, not only did it come recommended that I go small on the Schmedium, but like for also those reasons, like quicker turning, better toe heel mani capability. That's why I went with the small, and no complaints. The H block space is still the same. The only difference is the distance from outer to inner wheels from small compared to large. But Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I always find that like the shorter the frame, the more control I have on toe and heel rolls.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're bringing that wheel closer to the middle, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes sense. Is you
Yeah.
get more control.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
been my experience anyway.
Same.
I think there's also something about like weight that is like distal from the center of the body that like it seems insignificant to just have the wheels a little further, the frame a little longer, but it actually makes quite a massive difference, or there's quite a big potential for change. Like I've spoken about this with Joey a little bit. Like in cycling, there's a there's a quantity referred to as rotational weight. So like if you have anything on a bicycle that's going through a rotation, you definitely want to limit the weight being on the outside of that rotation because it just makes it more dramatic. So you want, like you can imagine if you had lead on your pedals, like pedaling the bike is going to be a lot. You want pedals to be light. You want rims to be light. If there's going to be weight on a bike, have it at the center of something or have it not rotating at all.
Right.
And obviously, like the end of a frame is not rotating, but like hip, all manner of the legs can rotate. So keeping the weight closer, there's some kind of like exponential force production probably that occurs.
Yeah, I experienced that a lot, like going from bigger wheels to smaller wheels. You can control your body a lot more with a smaller wheel and a smaller wheel base. You lose obviously some of the stability on the roll, but like in terms of like aerial movements and pretty much anything that doesn't include rolling, it feels easier to control with a smaller frame base. Yeah, it's funny how much it changes the like airs, like taking off feels so different with a small wheelbase.
Yeah.
Because that takeoff point is like closer into your foot as opposed to a long frame. Yeah.
There's something about flex that I've noticed too, where like there's, a boot has a sort of like flex quotient, right? If we're talking like forward and back, let's say. And I recently toyed with like I went with like a small Create. I rode like a small Create anti-rocker actually just to toy with it. And I found that like the boot wanted to tip over the front wheel before it wanted to engage the flex. So I think there's almost like an optimal amount of like a minimum barrier of entry when it comes to wheelbase, such that the boot can move well without doing this like ass over tea kettle thing before you're actually like skating the skate.
Whoa.
Did that make sense? You hear like more dramatic. Like if you had a single wheel skate, right, with like like the skate's just gonna before anything happens with like the flex point on the cuff, like the skate just wants to be a solid block. Whereas like I believe you want wheelbase such that the boot can move naturally and things can be expressed naturally before you're just like falling over in one direction or the other.
That's interesting to think of it as a tilting mechanism, and like how much force does it take for a certain setup to tip?
It starts to point at all the wizard stuff too, because like
length is a huge component of the wizard.
Yeah, completely.
Being open to that length. People for a long time, they didn't want length because it felt like a ski. But then the rocker allowed the length to not feel like a ski.
Correct.
So it gives you that extra tilt barrier, but you can also swivel.
Because flat is.
But I also want to say that I think the importance of wizard frames as a contribution to our activity culture. I think primarily it was a tool to get away from grinding, or a tool to like prevent us from grinding, and to explore other possibilities. Because grinding can be, obviously grinding is dope. We all love grinding, but it can be a distraction to other realms, or it can blind us to other realms, because it's so fun and it pleases the ego so much to hit a nice alley-oop fish. Like, it's such a gateway to confidence.
Yeah, totally. I will say it again, said it in the past, but the fact that you can spin on the ground without having to leave the ground truly is like remarkable. It's beautiful to watch. I've showed people in my family that have no knowledge of rollerblading, like some of the wizard stuff, and they're just enthralled by like the movements. And it's not just something that we as rollerbladers can have appreciation for. I feel like anybody can see what's happening regardless of their background or not, and see that that is a special occurrence. I'm excited. I recently bought the 76 millimeter mushroom blading wheels, the hosers. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
The hosers, yeah.
Hosers, yeah. I'm excited to put those on. I definitely plan on delving more into that discipline this winter, especially like when it gets really cold and grinding is 100% not going to feel right.
Yeah, grinding in the cold does not
sucks.
work.
No,
Yeah, it's
the worst.
Plastic sliding on metal, or waxed cement, just does not work as well in cold. So it's definitely like flat ground season.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting texts from my brother who's eagerly awaiting for me to join him for our skate session.
Ooh, exciting.
Would you gentlemen mind if I hop off and?
Yeah, I think we've done like 2 hours plus. This would be a good, we can cut it off.
Yeah.
I don't want to derail any conversations though, or okay.
No, I think we've done I think this feels good.
Cool.
Definitely. It was a pleasure, boys.
Yeah.
Excellent way to start my Saturday.
Two of my favorite rollerblading voices I got to chat with, so I'm already starting the day off right.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yes. Well, yeah, enjoy your inline skating session with Sean Kelso and Ryan Parker.
Yes. I'm hoping to have one of those days. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No worries. I just said be grateful that you own skates.
Oh yes. I own skates. But I am trying to have one of those days that you just had recently, that really good sesh. Maybe I'm setting my expectation way too high. I don't know.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Definitely.
Enjoy your day as well, Ben.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, likewise. It was great to talk to both of you guys.
Great chatting with you guys.
Cool. Well, we'll talk soon, hopefully.
Definitely.
All right, guys.
Later.
See ya. Bye.